Hello everybody, today I want to talk about the abandoned modern ghost town, Seneca, Arizona. I have a couple stories in regards to some freaky things that's happened there. One from a coworker that had told me back in the past, and then one I have personally for myself. But to understand what the facility is and what Seneca was, I have some history here I'm going to read off so you understand exactly where I'm coming from in regards to this place. For some reason, it ended up being shut down for no reason. There was a long period of time in its history where it ran into a whole bunch of hurdles and stuff, but then it started really catching on and going for a while. Then out of nowhere, even though the lake in the area was still being stocked, the facilities themselves had just shut down and were abandoned. So the town Seneca, Arizona resides on Highway US 60, going through in between the towns of Globe, Arizona and Sholo, Arizona, right before the Salt River Canyon. There are the abandoned buildings there. There used to be a convenience store, multiple stay houses for camping, over 40 campsites, a lot of workers there that managed the park. And by 1950, Desert Magazine was reporting that Seneca had a service station, restaurant, and cabins which were for tourists and miners at the nearby mine. These facilities were called the Apache's Rest Facilities in the 1950s. By early 1963, former cafe and other buildings had been taken down, and work was underway on earthen dam, which was built to create a lake at Seneca. San Carlos Apaches hoped the lake would draw fishers, campers, and support future plans for the resort itself. Additional development followed, including restaurant, the trading post, and campground at Seneca Park, and the park's recreational facility officially opened in 1971. There were also plans at one point to add a motel, a golf course, riding stables, more fishing supplies shops to all come to the area in the following year. The plans for those shops and additional restaurants unfortunately did end up falling through on that following year due to there not being enough power lines or diesel engines to kind of work all the facilities and keep power running at those advanced locations like restaurants and a motel. Eventually during this time, because of the money costs and not having power at the location did shut down for a short time to wait until power was able to reach the location so they can further advance and grow the facilities themselves. And it seems like the facility was reopened at 1979 when power lines finally did connect over to Seneca, Arizona. At that point in 1979, there were 144 campsites, a day-use picnic area, store, restaurant, service stations, and it was all run by over 20 members of the tribe in the area. But again, by 1986, though the lake was still being stocked, the facilities had been shut down. And so from here it gets kind of weird. There's no like absolute definition on why it had been shut down. It seems like it was mostly probably just because of the overcost everything, but the fact that they had so much open and things happening and they were still paying for the lake itself to be stocked for fish, for game fish, that why shut down the areas when you still had, obviously you had something coming in for that income. The last reporting of Seneca, Arizona was back in 2016 on Arizona Republic article. The site today is only some decaying and vandalized buildings. And so now I want to talk about some of the personal stories that I've heard and a personal story I have in regards to the area. It's a really kind of creepy vibe area because all of the buildings themselves have been completely hollowed out and gutted out. There's no walls up. The roof is completely fallen down. There's graffiti everywhere, and without knowing this history and exactly what it is, it makes you wonder what it was to begin with, because the main building doesn't represent what you would think a convenience store would be at all. In the middle of the main building there is a giant countertop area that you would kind of take for like a kitchen space, but further on in the middle is a giant like fireplace, brick fireplace, that just kind of doesn't fit the whole vibe of the building itself, and it's very kind of eerie walking around because of the dark corners, and the little bit of walls that are there kind of makes you feel enclosed in this space and you can't really see outside of it itself, so it makes you feel like you're almost in a different world walking around the main hub in the building. And around the building are the little townhouses that they had described, and those had also been gutted out, vandalized, and you can find remnants of like what used to be modern bathrooms and all that kind of stuff and it really sets in that eerie feeling of people used to be here and it wasn't that long ago, and it's just all gone. All of it's just done and gone, and no one's ever there, and it's out in the middle of nowhere too. You kind of just run into it. There's no like build up of the resort being there, and there's no build up and slowly growth of like what you would think is like homes and stuff like that around. It's just out of nowhere right before you hit the Salt River Canyon area. It's just these random houses and abandoned buildings that are almost skeletons of their former selves. And so the two stories I have today in regards to the location, I'm gonna tell my personal story first. It was a little bit eerie and weird, and then I'll get to the other more creepy story that I heard from an old coworker a long time ago. But one of my experience that I had with Seneca is when I had lived up in the Show Low Lakeside area, I would travel to Tucson where I had family and friends down here, and would go around and meet up with everybody and that stuff, and we would drive through the Salt River Canyon. And when we would be coming through, of course Seneca would be right there on the outskirts of it, and every now and then we'd stop by and walk around and go check out a couple things. One holiday weekend when I was coming from Show Low to go to Tucson to visit friends and family for the holiday, we stopped by that Friday to go walk around, check out the areas, and look at the abandoned houses and so on and so forth. Later, we were leaving Tucson late Sunday night, and as we were coming through, it was of course it was dark out, it was night, and we decided just to stop by to check out the buildings themselves, to walk around at night, because urban exploring and all that, you know, just kind of get a feel of it. As we were walking around though, we noticed that it seemed a bit more emptier than when we were there before, and we had discovered that one of the houses that we were walking in was just completely gone. Don't know what happened to the house over a holiday weekend for it just completely vanished. All there was left was just the foundation, like the concrete foundation of it there, but there was no like destruction or like, you know, broken down like wood panels from the house being there before. There was no like construction vehicles that would have been there to take down this house, and it was just gone. It was just a random, where we had walked through and looked at an abandoned like little townhouse that they have there, and it was just completely gone, like just foundation. Still to this day I have no idea what happened to it, why it's gone, where like there wasn't even trash left behind on where it used to be. It was just completely gone over a holiday weekend. And so that's my personal account in regards to the location itself. But another account I had heard was a little bit more freakier in my opinion. There's always been like stories that we've heard from others of like having just creepy vibes and not really knowing how to go about the area, just because it's kind of freaky, and it, you know, it makes a really unsettling feeling, especially walking around there at night. So the other story I have, my coworker was letting me know that on the trails around the area that they used to have, he would go quadding in the abandoned trails a lot, just because it, you know, there was no other people ever around, and him and his buddies can just go and zoom through on the quads and have a good time. As he was passing by the main hub building in the middle, he had come across a dead deer carcass, which had looked like it was attacked and picked at by like wolves and that kind of stuff. You know, it's wolves in that area isn't uncommon. Bears are in the area, and so he wasn't like, oh, that's weird. He was just like, oh, you know, nature does its thing. But as he had saw the carcass, he had like a weird uneasy feeling that something was like watching him, and he kind of stopped and he was looking around. And when he looked back at the main building, at the back of the main building has this like A-frame, not exactly A-frame, but well, a peak kind of roof, and in the roof or area are like big old windows with a big old platform. I'll try to show a picture of it here. But as he was out on the trail, he had saw a little white thing kind of peek up from the corner of that roof area. And so inside the building itself, like I said, it's all gutted and completely hollowed out. All there is like scaffoldings in there, just the beams that go across that would hold your like drywall to the ceiling. That's all that's left in there, is just those scaffoldings. And he saw what looked like a head kind of like bobbing back and forth, like looking at him through the window. And he was sitting there kind of like really looking at it like, what is that? What's going on? Like, that's kind of weird. He said that it had like a weird kind of white color head shaped thing just like staring at him. And as he was sitting there looking back at it, trying to like figure out what it was, because he was a good distance away from the building itself, it had ducked down behind the window and kind of disappeared, and he was just sitting there watching and waiting. And then he saw it, whatever the head thing was, its head popped again out on the other side at the bottom of the window, like upside down, now looking at him. And that's when he just completely freaked out and took off, got to his buddies. He was like, we can't be around here, something's in there, I don't know what it was. And they freaked out and left. And since I've heard that story, of course, stupid thrill freak, I've gone there a few times just to kind of walk around, not looking for anything in particular, but just to check it out, because it's kind of neat. Yeah, it's very rare that you can find a location that is just a modern, I would describe it like a modern ghost town, because all the buildings are, built with modern stuff, drywall, plywood, and all that kind of stuff. It had plumbing in it, electricity, and like, it's very eerie to see something that's the size of like what you would see in Tucson, like the Wild West ghost towns, but instead of it just being like that kind of wooden Wild West ghost town kind of vibe, it's like a little modern town. But those are the different stories I have in regards to it. I don't have anything else too crazy about it. I know I got a couple of, like, my mom has a couple funny pictures of a few times that when we were moving up into the Show Low Lakeside area, we would stop by there and just kind of walk around. My mom has a couple funny pictures of me standing in the middle of the building. It's completely empty, and my little brother up on the scaffoldings themselves and like walking around. And looking back at it, like the story that my coworker had told me, of course, most people would jump to the conclusion of like, oh, that was the skinwalker. I had this creepy alien creature thing that was going to get him. But knowing how it was all kind of built and laid out, it could have been anything. Like I'm pretty sure there are bobcats or mountain lions around that area as well. Could have easily been one of those climbing up in there, and then like it poked its head around or whatever, and he just didn't take the time to like really look at it and just panicked and drove away, as I feel like most people would see something like that coming around. But yeah, it was really interesting because to kind of do a little bit of research on the place, because I had no idea for the longest time exactly what it was. There's no indication of like showing exactly what it was before, and all I had known at the time was when we pull up to it, my dad had told me, he was like, yeah, this was at one point a convenience store, the main hub building, and he was like, they had a convenience store with a little bit of gas station outside, and that's all he really told me in regards to it. And I thought it was weird that they had that there with all these like little houses as well, and like across the street from it there are like abandoned trailers and that kind of stuff too. Just very odd kind of vibe. And so I liked the fact that I did a little bit of research and I found out that it was a camping resort. Makes a little bit more sense on why it was there, but it is out in the middle of nowhere, and I feel like that's probably what ended up making it fall through. But it would make sense to have it out there because people travel to Show Low Lakeside all the time to go camping, and then you have the Salt River right there that are only a couple minutes away to do like tubing, swimming, and that kind of stuff, your own kind of river fishing, and then its own lake that it had as well. But I think that's gonna be the end of the video. If you had made it this far, I do want to say thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please consider liking, subscribing, sharing the video with your other friends. My name's Cameron, and I hope you have a wonderful day.